Sometimes the difference between wasted time and real success is just 7 questions. Let's see if you're asking them. Hey there, and welcome back to The Thoughtful Beard, where we bring you insights, ideas, and a scally cap to tackle the challenges life throws at us. I'm Justin, and today we're in part 4 of our series on identifying and solving the right problems. If you've been following along, by now you've learned why we often fix the wrong problem, how to spot symptoms instead of root causes, and frameworks like define or the 5 whys to dig deeper. Today, we'll explore a 7-question checklist to validate that you've pinned down a real root cause. And we'll talk about one of the trickiest parts of problem solving, stakeholder disagreement. Let's dive in. In the last video, we introduced frameworks that systematically peel back the layers of a problem. Maybe you use define or ask the 5 whys. Now you think you have the core issues. But how do you make sure it's right before spending time and money on solutions? That's where this 7-question checklist comes in, like your final reality check. So first, we'll walk through each question. Then we'll focus on why stakeholders might disagree and what this means for your problem statement. If you can confidently answer yes to most or all of these, congratulations, you're likely dealing with a genuine root cause. So first, is it stated simply and clearly? If it takes a long explanation, you might still be describing the symptoms or a vague cluster of issues. Question number 2. Does solving it directly remove the observed symptoms? A true root cause fixes or drastically reduces the original complaint in a lasting way. Question 3. Are the affected stakeholders clearly identified? If you can't pinpoint who owns the problem or who truly cares, you're going to have a hard time realizing the value of solving it. More on this later. Question 4. Is it within you or your team's control to fix? If not, you may have identified a factor outside of your influence. This may mean you have to step back up a level or pivot to focus on a problem you can control and fix. Question number 5. Is it measurable or observable? You should have some data or metrics to confirm once it's fixed. As the saying goes, if it's measurable, it's solvable. Conversely, if you can't measure it, you can't be confident you actually solved a real problem. Question number 6. Does it focus on the process or system over individual blame? Root causes usually reveal a systemic gap, not just that Bob is lazy. If your fix is to address a person or their attitude, dig deeper. Lastly, number 7. Would fixing it prevent recurrence? This might be my favorite question. No one wants to fix a problem more than once. If we address this cause, will the same problem come back in the future? If yes, you may still be dealing with problems. Now, let's talk about stakeholders. One of the most common things I hear are people frustrated with a perceived stakeholder resistance. Justin, they say, I just don't get it. I explain the issue to my boss and he just doesn't see it. It's so obvious to me that if we do X, it will fix so many of our problems. Why doesn't he trust or believe in me? Ever felt that way? Well, you're not alone and I can help explain what's going on. When you're dealing with one or more stakeholders that are resistant to your problem or proposed solution, there are 3 common reasons for that disconnect. Number 1, you have the right problem, but the wrong stakeholder or stakeholders. The problem might be spot on, but it's not a top priority for the people you're talking to. They aren't the ones that own it or feel the pain. Possibility number 2 is that you have the right stakeholder or stakeholders, but the wrong problem. The folks in the room should be involved, like your engineering director, but the solution or statement you're presenting misses the deeper cause. Those around you can sense it's incomplete. Or thirdly, you might have the right stakeholders and the right problem, but you have a communication issue. Sometimes you found the true root cause, but the problem statement is vague or too broad, so the stakeholder doesn't see why it matters to them. Let's see how these play out in some real-world mini examples. First, let's look at the scenario of right problem, wrong stakeholder. A customer service manager notices that customer complaints about shipping delays have been skyrocketing. After digging deeper, he pinpoints that the actual problem is due to inefficiencies in the warehouse picking process. Items aren't being picked quickly enough, causing shipping delays. He goes to the warehouse manager to discuss the issue and propose solutions. The warehouse manager oversees warehouse operations, so it seemed logical to approach him. However, he begins to stubbornly push back and insists that the issue is with the inventory management system and begins proposing changes to the software. The conflict arises because the warehouse manager's field of expertise is the inventory management system and software that runs the warehouse. So he's limiting his view to his domain of expertise. The real solution requires training, education, and a reworking of the efficiency workflow in the picking process itself, which is outside of the warehouse manager's responsibilities. So in this example, the problem, inefficiencies in the warehouse picking process, was accurately identified, but the collaboration on how to fix the problem was going nowhere because it was done with a stakeholder that had no subject matter expertise or jurisdiction over training and process improvement. Next, let's look at the scenario of wrong problem, right stakeholder. A small startup company started seeing product performance issues. The lead developer goes to the engineering director and discusses with her that the performance of the product is a poor performing script and shrinking its size will resolve the issue. However, the engineering director challenges the root cause because she knows that there are other symptoms that indicate that the script is also a symptom, and the root cause is database performance. The conflict arises because the identified problem still looked like a symptom to the engineering director, who was the right stakeholder and has the necessary expertise to participate in the discussion. She understood the need to solve the problem and the value of doing so quickly, but also recognized that it failed two very important questions in the 7-question checklist. Namely, does solving it directly remove the observed symptoms, and would fixing it prevent recurrence? Lastly, let's look at the scenario of right stakeholder, right problem, but poor communication. A manufacturing line is producing a high level of defects. A deeper investigation uncovered that machine X on that line drifts out of calibration every 20 hours. The line technician who discovered this approaches the plant manager and tells him that the issue with the line causing all the defects is machine X is broken and needs to be replaced. The plant manager, who is personally responsible for that line, refuses because the machine is new and extremely expensive and there's no available budget to replace it. Find another way, he says. The conflict arises because the problem wasn't properly articulated. We discussed previously that a good problem statement encompasses the why something is happening. The line technician was correct in his assessment, but failed to deliver the problem statement in a clear and concise way. Once he explained why the symptoms were happening, in this case, calibration drift after 20 hours, the plant manager now understood, and they collectively agreed to an approach that addressed the problem, thus eliminating the defects that were coming off that line. All these scenarios point back to question 3. Are the affected stakeholders clearly identified? That's not just a matter of naming names. It's about knowing who should care and seeing whether they do. If they don't, reevaluate if you're talking to the wrong person, and thus the wrong stakeholder, you haven't found the right problem yet, or you just need to articulate it better. Remember, if you can't get alignment, your fix, no matter how brilliant, won't go anywhere. So there you have it. 7 key questions to validate your problem and a heads up on why stakeholders might disagree on what that problem actually is. If you keep all these in mind, you'll have a robust safety net against chasing illusions or half-true causes. In our final video, part 5, we'll see how to pull everything together from initial observations to real-world implementation, and how to measure success so you know you've truly solved the right problem. Stay tuned. If you liked this video, please subscribe, share, and join the conversation in the comments below. Let me know if you've faced disagreements like these and how you resolve them. Thanks for watching The Thoughtful Beard, your place for insights, ideas, and a scally cat. I'll see you soon for part 5.